So, being weak as a man. I can understand when you're a young man, like some of my athletes, 17, 18, 19, 20, early 20s, and you may be socially awkward, things like that. Um, you don't have the gift of gab. You may be focused on education and boxing, things like that. Um, and then you get frustrated. And even though I'm talking more about my athletes, I'm really talking to all the young men out there in general. Um, in my previous video, I spoke about being self-sufficient within yourself, and if you're going to choose the MGTOW way, and but another aspect you need to look at is yourself as a man. Um, you know, there's some categories out there: alpha, beta, and sigma. I find those categories are a little they're too absolute. We're kind of on a gray scale, a scale. Life is more on a scale system than absolute. Fit in this one box. If you're alpha, that's all you are. If you're a sigma, that's all you are. A lot of cases we range through life, either from young to older, alpha, betas, sigmas. Yeah, we kind of lean more based on our personality traits, genetic makeup, upbringing, cultural interaction, things like that. Mental state, traumas, a lot of things go into how we choose as individuals to walk through life. And we associate like alpha males as the guys that's kind of like have the bravado, they're outgoing, kind of like like jerks at times if they need to be, don't really give a damn about really anything. They're the shit basically. They tend to like try to take charge in almost all situations. I guess, I mean, those things are all the stereotypical things. Beta kind of follow what alpha does type thing, and of course sigma, they say they do their own thing. They're not really influenced by what other people think, kind of lone wolf type stuff. And those are all oversimplification for this video, but modern men, a lot of men, especially what I've noticed, that tend to fall into like or be enticed by MGTOW. It's not because of women or bad women. A lot of times, something we need to consider as well is that those men are weak. You can't be weak and be in MGTOW. You'll never be happy. You can't be a weak man. You can't, like, say you're raised by a woman your whole life. You don't have any real male role models, especially from the previous generation, the generation before that, like your grandparents, your grandfather. Then you'll tend to have a lot of feminine behaviors, and you'll tend to use more of your feminine energy as far as responding to situations and stuff like that. But you have to keep in mind, males grow up to be men, and men supposed to be protectors and providers, which means you also have to be problem solvers. You can't be emotionally unstable. You can't be super sensitive. Yes, you can tap into your sensitivity and your empathy and all those other things, but you still have to be a man. And a lot of times we especially the young men, they're kind of brainwashed by women because it's a matriarch system here in the West, for the most part. Even though everything else is a patriarch, in the family it's matriarch. In most cases, most people are being raised by single mothers. Most of the teachers are female. Most of the social workers are female. You know, almost everywhere you go, mostly everything is run, you know, by female. So you have more of a female perspective, or modern men are seeing mainly female reactions to problem solving, and in a lot of cases, young men are kind of adapting that. So they have this male stuff, but you know, they keep this female stuff. But women, on an instinctual level, men are looking for feminine energy in women, and women are looking for the masculine energy in men. And most of the men out there, young men in particular, you know, they're using behaviors that's feminine based. So you might attract a gutter rat woman that is no good, you know, especially if you're only looking at physical health, like physical beauty, and none of the other healths, as I mentioned in a previous video. Um, so you may look at those things. So you can't be weak. You gotta be. You have to be physically fit. For your age. You know, as you get older, my age, I'm still physically fit, but I don't look like a powerlifter or a bodybuilder like my young self. You know, I have a slight pot belly. You know, I have fat covering my chest a little bit here and there. You know, I'm not cut up anymore. You know, I'm not a gym rat when it comes to like bodybuilding. I coach. I stay in good cardiovascular shape to train my athletes. So look at yourself. And I'm not saying I couldn't do better. That's just where I am. I'm comfortable with who I am, where I am, and that to me makes me a good man. You know, a real man. I'm not a weak man when it comes to things like that. You know, so if you're young, don't try to please everybody. You will never please everybody. Do not mold yourself or try to change yourself in what you think other people expect you to be like. There are certain standards that we all kind of follow as a society, as a culture that we live within, but you got to think for yourself. You know, go off, if you're young, early 20s, focus on, you know, as a man, you need to be focused on your career. You know, on building a career, getting an education, a trade, something, getting a career, working on a career. As far as women goes, you know, if you intend to have kids, get married, if that's one of your biggest goals, then you need to start looking at getting married, like working on becoming a wife in your parents' home as a teenager. You know, learning those household stuff, you know, cooking, cleaning, nurturing, taking care of what's inside the house, supporting the man or your father or his you know, your brothers outside the home. Like my mother, they grew up like cooking breakfast and stuff for my uncles and taking care of their clothes and stuff so they could go out and get an education growing up. And to this day I see how my mother takes care of my dad, and it's all us when we go over, and that's the kind of wife I'm looking for, you know. And she's happy. You know, she's not enslaved, she's none of that stuff. And she also works. I mean, she didn't work when we were growing up, you know, but she worked when I was born. She used to like to be out of the house working. My father worked in the house, like welding and stuff like that. He had a house shop. But after a while, she pulled back. And when my brother and sister were born, she was more of a stay-at-home mom. And only went back to the workforce after they kind of were like going to college, going to high school and stuff like that. So, you know, you got to work on becoming a wife, kind of from young, because something that's a behavioral thing that you have to learn at home. But young men, you know, you can go on to college, get a trade, whatever it is, and start young, and don't try to conform what you're doing to get the approval of people your own age. Because as you get older, you're gonna evolve. You know, like in my case, you know, I would try to be like the hopeless romantic type thing, because that's what I thought people wanted. You know, girls wanted at the time. In reality, throughout the history of men and women, that's not what women want. So you're getting shut down here and there. Uh, you want a provider and a protector. And if you're presenting yourself as that hypersensitive, long walks on the beach and crap like that, that's not practical. That's not even manly. That's what you're conforming to what you think women want. Women don't really want that, So rather than try to figure out what women want in that sense, and then getting crushed and jumping onto MGTOW because you're too weak to stand up and say, hey, this is what I'm about. I'm about my money, I'm about my job, I'm about my management, I'm about my peace of mind. Whatever it is, everybody have a value system you could create. And that's another thing, you need to create a value system. In my case, my value system, number 1, life. Number 2, time. Right? And then everything else under that. I would throw like truthfulness around 3. But those are my 2 most don't budge principles and value system for myself. Because life, you only have 1 currently. Alright? Unless you die, you believe in Hinduism, reincarnation and things like that. It's still 1 life, you just reincarnated and start all over again. 2, time, you can never get time back, it's gone. Yesterday will never return. So that's my value system. You need to develop a value system and live by that value system. Don't waste in my case, you don't waste my time. Alright? And if you're living, I will try to do my best to help you. As long as it doesn't affect my life in a negative ways. Alright? So if you're weak, MGTOW is not for you. If you're weak mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you will never attract a woman that's long term. You will be broken, and you will jump on MGTOW and be disgruntled. You gotta be strong within yourself. You have to know who you are. Be self-aware of who you are, what you're capable of. As far as Sigma, Beta, and Alpha, I see myself more along the lines, I have behavioral patterns along the lines of Sigma. I don't really like to lead, but if I have to lead, I would. I could jump on somebody's vision, like the boxing program that wasn't started by me, but I jumped on the vision, applied my own approach to it to make it better. I create things that come to my head, I try to put it into practice. I have an idea, like I'm building this bodysuit. There's nothing like it out there. See if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, I tried. It's out of my system. That's how I do some. That's some of the things that Sigma tend to work. I'm not looking to be praised for the work I do. I do the job. I coach boxing because I genuinely love it. I love seeing kids learn something, not just academically, but learn something practical, behavioral, so they can return into the world and apply it in their everyday life. Even when they become adults, they can apply that stuff. That's great satisfaction for me to see. Even if they fail in doing some of the stuff that we taught them, they remember, and some of them are actually teaching their own children some of the things we've taught them. So that's does it for me. So if you're weak, MGTOW isn't for you. If you're young, you shouldn't throw yourself into MGTOW in a way that's unhealthy. You use MGTOW's mindset to build yourself up, get a good job, be financially stable, have your own place. Again, 3 basic things to have when it comes to finances and independence. Spirituality and some of the other things, we could do a whole nother video on that. If you want, just ask in the comment section down below. As far as these women go, of course, look at the other videos that I talked about, choosing the right woman, or otherwise you'll get heartbroken and try to jump into MGTOW the wrong way. MGTOW is not about just going your own way. just in a huff and a puff, you know. It's not about that. It's about being happy in yourself, going your own way, being happy, not necessarily being in a relationship, but if one comes along and you know you're not so far gone that you kind of like you're so destroyed that you take out all the trauma on the new woman and have her pay for the sins or the stuff that you messed up on and the other women walked out of your life on. Even if you did nothing wrong, on the surface, you've done some things, or you may not have done some things. These are the things. That's why you say you're always growing. You're always growing yourself. You're always bettering yourself every day. And even when you're doing something right, and a woman thinks you're wrong, and you know she walk out on you, at least you're comfortable in the decisions that you make. But if you're doubting yourself, you know, or you're pandering to the women, you're going to be seen as weak instinctually, not intellectually. Women use intellect, but more as an instinctual thing. You'll be sensed as weak. Other men will sense you as weak, So you got to be able to build yourself up so you can be strong. Lead where you're supposed to lead. Fall back and let others lead where you are not qualified to lead. You know, you have to have that mindset. You ain't gotta stick in this stereotypical alpha mode the whole time. You have to be versatile. You can't be so rigid, or look at some of these videos at alpha, beta, and sigma and say, well, I'm gonna fit myself or force myself into this one box. Reality is, we are all those things. We're on a scale. Sometimes we're alphas in certain environments, sometimes we're betas in other environment. Sometimes we're sigma in some environments. I am all three of those things when it's appropriate. In my home, I'm alpha. In the boxing program, I'm sigma / beta, because they have the guy that started the program. He has his vision. I adopted that vision for that because I work for that program, and I try to achieve that vision my way, using my methods, my experience, and everything else to help that program achieve its goal. But I'm still following the leadership of the guy that started the boxing program. As far as sigma stuff, you know, like I say, building that boxing bodysuit for punching, that's something I'm doing on my own. The punching bags, if you look at some of the videos there, that was my idea of using fenders, both fenders, for punching bags, and they're working great. Yes, there were some growing pains in it and some failures, but we knocked the kinks out. Well, I knocked the kinks out, and they seem to be holding up pretty good. Again, you cannot be weak to be in MGTOW, and you cannot be weak, you know, in relationships. You gotta be firm. You gotta be sure of yourself. You gotta be self-aware. Know who you are. And I'm not talking just about the physical. You know, my name is this. I got this education stuff. You gotta truly understand who you are. And if you want to know who you are on a spiritual level, book I would recommend is the Bhagavad Gita. That's a good place to start. It's a Indian text that was translated into English from Sanskrit. Again, it's the Bhagavad Gita. English language is the root language for English is Sanskrit. It is not Latin. So look into that if you're looking at trying to understand who you are as on a spiritual level, or abstract level. If you're not into religion, look at the abstract. Understand who you are physically, where you are in culture, in social standing, educational standing, experience. Once you understand those things, you'll understand your worth. When you understand your worth, you know, you won't take crap from anybody, you know, and you'll be more self-sufficient. You will not be weak because you know what you're worth, and you can't know what you're worth until you know who you are. So like, subscribe, share this video. Hopefully it's helpful. I know it's a little long-winded. Y'all have a good night.